In this installment, I finally break into some fresh programming, and an experiment involving the series premiere of The Shield leads to a revelation, however short-lived. I'll try to explain. Recovery efforts are thankfully rewarded with an otherwise potentially lost episode of Preacher, and the 16th season of Project Runway gets off to a great start. Welcome to the show.
He doesn't have that on video, does he? We'll find out together on video, Fuzzy.
My long-stated wish was granted this past week when my Classic Collection's laser-like focus on the fall season of 2007 made way for a broader range of programming. I mean, seriously, I've got thousands of discs here. Surely they're not all Desperate Housewives and Heroes. With Sean Ryan's high-powered intro, dun 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 dun, Vic Mackey's strike team brought order to the mean streets of L.A.
Friday Night Feature.
The Shield introduces what became 7 seasons of high-powered intensity with a well-drawn juxtaposition of Captain Aceveda presenting a self-congratulatory press conference about the improvements in crime statistics in LA's Farmington district, with scenes from a daytime chase sequence carried out through the neighborhood streets by Vic Mackey's strike team to nab a drug dealer. Afterwards, Aceveda's mole in the team, Detective Terry Crowley, meets up with Aceveda and a federal operative to make a deal delivering Mackey's head on a platter. Perhaps not surprisingly, from what we learn about Mackey over the course of this pilot episode, this puts Crowley in Mackey's crosshairs. Aceveda describes Mackey as Al Capone with a badge. As Claudette points out, Al Capone mostly gave the people what they wanted. Mackey might be corrupt, she said, but his corruption has reduced gang violence and made people feel safer, the kind of results the higher-ups were looking for. As the episode progressed, we watched Mackey and his team presenting a tough, no-nonsense, blue-collar, go-with-what-works approach to law enforcement. After Dutch spent all day with the wrong suspect, Mackey's quick and dirty interrogation helped rescue a girl abducted by a high-profile pedophile. He greased wheels, suppressed complaints, made sure the neighborhood working girls could look after their families, took his various cuts from various operations, and, after pulling Crowley into his inner circle, executed him with a drug dealer's gun. Michael Chiklis presents Mackey as a clear-eyed sociopath with no recognition of authority. As written, this is the response Sean Ryan suggests may be needed in policing a society of control. As written, I think this show is meant to appeal to an audience worried that society is spiraling out of control. In the wake of the market crash in the beginning of the 2000s and 9/11, the pilot episode aired in March of 2002. Lots of people were looking for scapegoats, and a solid, tough-on-crime ethic had its appeal. As written, however, this show played out over 7 seasons. Call it, give the man enough rope to hang himself. The moral ambiguities that allowed a power broker like Mackey free rein to do as he pleased ultimately fitted a noose around his thick neck, tightening more and more until the final scene of the series finale, where he finds himself trapped in his own worst nightmare, his world reduced from high adrenaline foot chases through market squares to a tiny cubicle and endless mind-numbing paperwork. It seems Sean Ryan had a point of view about Mackey's strong-arm tactics, after all.
Diving into the Classic Collection.
I was able to catch up with The Shield pretty quickly as Spike TV ran this series so far as a marathon, and what? What? I couldn't... What's happening? What? Wonder of wonders. I was able to count 'em, 7 episodes on a disc. Disc 317. I had learned! It took me more than 300 discs, but I'd finally discovered the EP 6-hour setting on my disc number, and I was on my way to tearing through this collection. Liberacion! We'll be making some serious progress now. That disc cataloged, I then popped disc 318 into the machine, and I'd apparently hopped back to recording 2 hours per disc. No, it's fine, but Why? When I'd clearly figured out how to transfer an entire tape to DVD without having to switch it out every 2 hours, had I chosen to revert to this format? I could just pop a blank disc and a tape in my rub-a-dub-dubber when I left for work and come home to one viewer VHS tape to manage, store, and fuss with. And instead of needing 3 of them per tape, I could literally triple my storage capacity for this project. What gives, past Amin? The only guess I've got is that I was worried about video quality, which absolutely suffered somewhat of the 2-hour to the 6-hour compression. But I also know at some point that ceased to be a consideration for me. I can't remember exactly when or what ultimately led to it, but I can't wait to find out when I started these transfers more consistently. I do know that, downgraded though it might be, I had no trouble whatsoever in viewing these episodes, which is the main factor. Can I call them up and watch them again? And yeah, absolutely. In our HD universe, it's a bit like watching a current show on a fatback television, but for sure you can totally watch it. For the disc I transferred, disc 317, I will say it was a bit of a learning curve at this end of the process as well. 6-hour discs behave differently in the player. The chapter forward advances me 15 minutes instead of the 5 that I've gotten used to. Also, I'd recorded most of these with commercials, so they were about an hour long instead of 42 minutes, so there was a bit of searching for the ends of shows. More than you'd think, since the end was always slightly ahead or slightly behind where the chapter forward landed me. The rewind and fast forward search fluctuated between glacial and hyperdrive, which made navigation quite challenging until I got the hang of it. In other classic collection news, I see I recorded a sort of Heroes-themed music video by Jamie Cullum singing High and Dry, which I enjoyed. After an entire season of Save the Cheerleader, Save the World, it looked like the cheerleader saved the singer from jumping off a roof. Speaking of music videos, I also saved Pink's Stupid Girls from 2006, where I was struck by the lyric image, "Whatever happened to the dream of the girl president?" She's dancing in the video next to 50 Cent. Indeed. I'm also going to pull up the Agatha Christie Poirot production, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, at some point, because challenging as this narrative choice was to present as a murder mystery, I can't imagine the difficulty in presenting a first-person Hal Ketchum on screen as a straight murder mystery, and I'd be interested in taking a closer look at that. Also, I discovered where I'd recorded the second episode of AMC's presentation of Hustle, which I remember enjoying quite a lot. In that episode, they've added Danny Blue to the team, and he's having some trouble fitting in, but in getting their story established, piquant camera choices and their trademark asides to the camera, they're a lot of fun to watch straight out the gate. A fun show. Can't wait to see what else I find in this set of tapes before I drop back into the week-to-week recordings.
Current collection.
I didn't make too much progress on my current collection this time. I'm hoping to hit that a little harder this next week or so, but I cataloged a few interesting entries. For one thing, I am not and have not been a fan of ABC's Dancing with the Stars, but when I clicked past the 24th season premiere in March, I've got to say I was pulled in by the quick-step routine I spied, Normani and Val's provocative visuals, and I decided to not only watch but record the dance routines. Send the backstories and judges' comments. I mean, honestly, who cares? I haven't watched an episode since. I couldn't tell you who won the thing, and as usual, I find the use of the word stars has been stretched beyond my understanding of it, but I've got to say I enjoyed watching what I watched. A good introduction to what must have been a reasonably entertaining season. I got an episode of The Simpsons focused on self-esteem and trophies, and an episode of The Family Guy where Peter opens a food truck, and then I got a couple episodes of something off National Geographic Channel called Origins, The Journey of Humankind, purporting to track seminal advances in human history along a few significant achievements. One was the harnessing of fire, another focused on medicine, others focused on other things, but I really stopped caring. I mean, in both of the ones I saw, host Jason Silva barks at us about how damn awesome we all are now because a crew of actors recreated poorly sourced, possibly worse scenarios in the past and made them better because we as a species are just so damned awesome. We harnessed fire, pulling it from the sky to command it and bend it to our will, to create, expand, and to dominate, resulting in bombs and rockets and... Oh, wardrobe, seriously, he's gonna need another pair of pants over this. I don't need a National Geographic series to tell me how boner-inducing significant our development of fire, medicine, writing, money, war... Seriously, war... architecture, transportation, and human curiosity and ingenuity are to our modern age. What we need is some means to coordinate this progress, to make it equitable and sustainable, which means more than technological breakthroughs and nuclear explosions, it's instilling a sense of value among our fellow human beings, where we actually give a crap about the quality of life for those less fortunate and making life better for all of us. I also recorded TCM's presentation of 2001 A Space Odyssey and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which I was hoping they'd play since FX was running the feud Betty and Joan at the time, and I wanted to refresh my memory of the show. I got a little further along on Legion and cataloged the Sundance Channel presentation of A History of Violence, which looks pretty cool, and I'm sure I'll actually get a chance to watch one of these years.
What I've been watching.
This weekend, Ralph and I finally took in the third installment of Steve Carell's hilarious Despicable Me series, which I found to be a lot of fun. Trey Parker presented deliciously 80s-themed villain Balthazar Bratt, who, post his antics as a child star on the top-rated Evil Brat series, parlayed his kitty hijinks into a mullet-wearing supervillain with shoulder pads and a Freddie Mercury porn stash, wielding a keytar to perpetrate his evil deeds. He needed to nab the DuPont diamond to power the laser on top of his giant evil brat robot, but is thwarted repeatedly by Gru, who recovers the diamond, but is unfortunately fired along with his wife Lucy by the new head of the Anti-Villain League for not apprehending the dastardly brat. Disgusted, most of his minions abandon him and get tossed in prison for disrupting, some would say winning, a soundstage singing competition. Gru is distracted from the bad news of his termination by the girls throwing him and Lucy an impromptu honeymoon party and an invitation to visit his long-lost twin brother Drew in Fredonia and maybe dig into the family business, continued by his father Robert, a supervillain with an evil lair and everything. Gru and Drew nab the diamond, but Brat steals it back by pretending to be Lucy and abducting the girls. And now, while the minions engineer a towering prison escape, Gru and Drew have to steal the diamond back and save the girls before Brat takes his ultimate revenge on Hollywood. It's all delightfully evil, and it's fun to watch Gru fighting the pull to revert to his evil ways and please his father, or be the force for good that Lucy loves. The 80s references are fantastic throughout and power a deliciously ridiculous caper. Well done. Also, I forgot to mention it last time, but Ralph and I have been enjoying the new season of Project Runway. We've been watching together for a few years now, and we're generally pretty happy with the judges' selections of winners and losers, and this season is off to a great start. The challenges themselves are fun to watch, and personally I love watching this level of creativity in a taut, deadline-driven environment. We thought the guy with the sewing injury this past week milked it a bit much, and wonder if he's going to bring up his injured finger for the rest of the season, maybe blame some of his unfortunate styling choices on it as well. I mean, he won the first challenge, but he hasn't been in the top 3 since, and this week he was in the bottoms, so different challenges, different priorities, and different strengths, guys, so no coasting along, huh? One thing I'm a little bit thrown by this season is the show's decision to air a 15-minute sneak peek at the next week's episode. What's up with that? I mean, sure, I realize that all the episodes are taped and edited and ready to rock because, yeah, the winning designers have been chosen and are already prepping for Fashion Week coming up here pretty soon and have been for months. It doesn't mean to air them. That's fully a quarter of next week's episode that I've already seen now and will be fast-forwarding when the time comes, including the commercials, which... truth be told, I was fast-forwarding anyway, but now along with some revenue, I'll be skipping out on a little bit of continuity, editing, and shaping, thanks. Just because you got all the episodes done doesn't mean you need to air them all. I mean, a sneak peek would be like 5 minutes of next week's show or scrap of workstation drama you might or might not have actually included in the episode. I mean, not the first 15 minutes of the next completed episode. I mean, what were you thinking? Pull it together, Project Runway. Finally, an unfortunate thing happened to Disc X101 while I was recording a recent episode of Preacher. Season 2 has been bringing it hard all the way through, by the way. I was going along when suddenly my recorder stopped and posted the message, "Unable to record on this disc." Well, that wasn't good. I already had the previous episode of Preacher recorded to the disc and deleted from my DVR, along with an episode of something off of Prairie Public talking about the eclipse we had August 21st. I tried to finalize the disc and found out that I could not. I took it out and looked at it, but couldn't see anything wrong with it. Since Tabitha's the only DVD Plus R reader I've got in the house right now, that's the only machine that could deal with this particular disc, and she didn't seem up to it. So I took it over to a computer repair shop I've worked with in town here to see if they'd be able to recover the files from it. This after I tried to pull the disc up on my laptop with some Nero disk recovery and DVD shrink software I've got, with no luck. The computer shop confirmed the only machine that could deal with the unfinalized disc was the one that coded it in the first place, so good luck. Well, damn. I took it home and wiped it down really well and fed it in again. This time I could get the menu to come up and the recorded episodes to play, but I still could not get it to finalize. So, once again I brought Sonia downstairs, I got the two of them talking to each other, and pressed play and record. I went for a walk, and by the time I got back, not only had I recovered the 2 files I'd recorded to the faulty disc, but because that was what was playing on my cable box at the time, 1 episode of Modern Family after the Eclipse show. Yeah, what the heck, I decided I'd just leave it there. And it's got a cute backstory. Beyond that, thank you for checking in for another installment on my video cataloging adventure. You can check out my catalog listing along with audio links at videofuzzy.blogspot.com and past episodes of this podcast at iTunes and videofuzzy.libsyn.com. Feedback is always appreciated. You can contact me through my blog or podcast sites or through my Video Fuzzy page on Facebook. And for Video Fuzzy, I'm Terry J. Ahman. Happy viewing.
It might be amazing, it might just be scuzzy. We'll find out together on Video Fuzzy.